Okay, welcome back everyone. What I'm going to do is just get this menu set up squared away so that we can go and develop various scenes and use them. So basically it's just a main layer with links to each different scene. You open the scene, the ones that we've been working on, and you can go back and we'll be moving on then to the update scene. So to show you how to do that, the first thing I want to show you is about the background color or layer color, which is something I hadn't really thought about because I haven't used it much in any stuff that I've been working with. But I got an email or two and people were asking about it. So I did have that small way of doing it in the last video, but I'll just show you. First of all, there's 3 different ways you can do it, and I'll show you about 3 different ways I know. The first way, which would be probably the more standard way, is to go into the app delegate and bring in this guy. This is a CC layer called base layer, and I'll import that into the app delegate. And now down where we have the start of the CC3 setup code, instead of using this controllable layer, I'm going to use this CC color layer as the base holding layer for the whole the main layer, which is the main CC3 layer. And I'll just change what was written down as control layer there before and put in this base layer. And when we launch the program now, this will be the first layer that's opened. And the base layer is just simply a CC layer color, which is a Cocos3d standard sort of a color layer. I have a change background function on it, and the advantage of it for this purpose is that you can, because it's a base color layer, it's a color layer, you can init it with color, and this color is something like light red, lighter green, and more blue, and it's opaque. And the layer will then add a CC3 layer, which is the main layer, to start the app. And up until the Cocos3d went to version 2, it was possible to do this with controllable layers and just normal CC3 layers, but that's been deprecated now. So this is the way to do it if you're going to do it that way. And as far as I know, if I just run that now, we should get the thing running, and there we have it. We have a background color to the layer, which is being provided by the CC layer color. And when I go into the scene and go back, we still have the background color. Okay, so I'll just clear out of that for a sec. I have this ability to change that background color, and I can implement that in the main layer by when the main layer opens, it adds a background color. And if I uncomment this line here, it'll run an action to call on the target, which is its parent, and its parent now is the base layer, and it'll run the change background selector on the base layer, which we've already seen just goes through a random selection of color and numbers and gives a color to the main to the base layer. So if I run it again now, there we go. And if we come out of it back in, you'll see that every time I go back, it adds a new background color to the base layer, like so. Although it seems to be going to just 2 of them at the moment, so there's a different one again. Okay, so that's how you would do it using a base layer. Now, I don't particularly use that. In fact, I don't use a whole lot of these at all, but I wouldn't go about it that way. What I tend to do is take that out, okay, and I'll delete that, remove reference, delete that, remove reference, and go back into my app delegate and set things up the way they were originally, which was that we had a CC3 layer attached to a CC3 controllable layer, and I need to recall these now. Controlled layer and controlled layer, and that should do it, and it should open straight into the main layer now. And if I go into my main layer, where it says the background color, I'm just going to cancel out that again, comment it out. Okay, so if I run it again now, I think there should be no color added to it because I didn't have an added to it. And there you go, no color. Okay, so the way I showed you previously was to use a sprite. This is the second way of doing a background color on a layer. And I've only discovered myself that you don't need this blank .png that I had brought in here. All you have to do is, in the main layer, I've given some member variables. One of them is bg for the background. And bg is going to be just a new sprite. I'm going to add it to the layer at a z of -2. And when it comes down to adding the background color, which is called in the initialize methods, this is going to run, and essentially what it's going to do is make a large texture the size of the screen, put it in the center of the screen, and give it a random color again. And we'll try that and see how it works. So there you go, node scene, back, different color, material scene, back, different color. Okay, and that works pretty good, and you can see good frame rate at the bottom as well. Now, one of the handy things about this one is that you can actually control the size of it. It isn't just the whole layer being changed, so I've got the facility to do that down here, and I'm going to comment them out and comment these guys in, and you'll see when I run it now that I've actually adjusted the size of this sprite so that it fits nicely for the menu. And when you go in and out, you can change the color behind the menu. Okay, so that's a handy little thing. Now, the way that I think is probably the nicest way of changing the background layer color is to use the CC3 OpenGL statement, which all it does is every frame it clears out the background color to a color of your choice. It starts off with this color here, which is kind of slightly bluer than anything else. And when I go to add the background color, I'm going to vary it each time. It'll take a float between 0 and -1 into this clear color, and we should get a different colored background color every time. So there you go. So kind of that's the starter one. I hit the node scene, back, different one at the back, and back. Different color at the back, different color at the front. So this is all starting to be very pretty indeed. Okay, so there are the three different ways that you could give yourself different layer background colors. My particular favorite is that one, the OpenGL one, but this one here in the inside is handy. The sprite one is handy for making different shapes that you can stick in at different points, and you can manipulate them around. Okay, as far as the rest of what I've done here to set up this menu is in the main layer. We've got our enum, we've got our sprite for the background. I've now got a mutable array which is going to contain the names of the different scenes. I've got a BM font for the heading label, and I've got a menu called back button and another menu called control button, which I'll get back to that in the next episode of the series, as they say. Okay, in the main layer then, what I've done is moved everything into this initialize controls method so that it's all set up before the layer actually opens. And that's where the sprite is added. This is the names array now. And what I've done is put in the different names, just set up an array with the objects, and they're strings with the names of the different scenes. We add the background color, we add the heading label, we add a menu, and we add the back button. I'm leaving this schedule update commented out for just a second. In the next episode I'll be dealing with that. Okay, so we've talked about adding the background color. The next thing is adding the heading label, which is straightforward enough. It's a BM font label. Main layer is set up there and its position is set up. The next thing is adding the menu. And what the menu does is I put in a CC menu. with no items, and then I go through an enumeration of the string names in the menu, in the array, sorry. With the names, I make a label, and I take the string from the array for each item, and give the label that name, and then I give it a target, and they all use this load required scene method to target the menu. Set the label size slightly smaller to distinguish the menu and make it green. And then when I'm adding the items in the loop, this is still in the loop, they all go in at -1, and they got a tag which is their index inside the array. And that works out very nicely because the index of the object in the array, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, is the same as the enum on the front of it in the header, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's handy for the cycling through them. When the menu is pressed, it goes into this load required scene with the selected option, which is coming in with this index, and then it goes through the different scenes we have, and basically just makes the property of this layer whichever scene we want, and then the heading on top is changed to the required scene heading. Okay, and that's pretty much it. You can see that there's a few other things coming shortly, and in the next episode I'll be dealing with this update scene and a bit of a control button. So at the moment what we have is we run the program, we get our different colored background colors, main layer heading. Now I hit the node scene selector, it goes through the array, picks out the node scene, makes it the property, changes the heading, and when I'm finished I can hit the back button, which I didn't talk about and I was talking about, and material scene and back button. Okay, and the only thing about that back button is that I've added it as a CC menu, and if you look, it's defined in the initialization phase to add the back button. And if I go and find that there, add back button, what it is just one label, it's got back on it, it targets this quit current scene method. I put it in the position at the end. Initially it's not visible, but when you select one of the scenes you can see that the back button becomes visible at the end of the selecting scenes method, and that's where the change of the background color comes as well. Okay, and then when it is activated, it quits the current scene, you change the background color, you get rid of the property of the scene which blanks it out, the heading changes back to main layer, and the back button is no longer visible, and that control button we'll talk about later is no longer visible. So that's it for now, and I leave you with a preview of the next one. What could be happening there?